Maybe before we do that, is there anything that you guys want to share from your discussion or anything that surfaced that you think that we need to talk about before we move forward?
You're wanting to develop with what you've learned. So what we're going to ask you to do is we're going to ask you to share, each one of you is going to share a minute, just 1 minute, briefly kind of an overview of what you're thinking and what you're planning to do with the lesson. Then we'll call time and the other person will share their 1 minute story, and then we'll flip and we'll move around the room. So I think we said
We can get to that once but what you need are the Post-it notes. You are going to have 8 conversations, and it's going to happen rapid fire. Do you have a pen? So make it.
I'll be okay.
No group dating. That's not true. We're very open-minded. But today the focus is just on one.
This is
your case. Okay. Ready, set, begin.
Alright, I have 3 ideas. We already kind of talked about them. First is I would like to do like the BBQ geared for world history. And I think
general, like trying to dispel the dominant narrative and not highlight the absent narrative.
So I was hit by kind of this concept of defining and like
The original tables that we had
by our feelings.
we had talked about, I think it was Matthew who talked about giving stage shape, and then within the shape is representation. So like looking at and a lot of the art that I was talking to is because of stereotypes. So I was thinking, like, I really like YouTube was already just stereotypes idea. I feel like I kind of just working with what they've constructed again is what I and even like this whole year's concept. I just have so much fun whenever any standard on art as narrative.
Like crossing down the same drink the marshes and like using those maps over time and saying like, you know, it's because he didn't like this one Shambas that he destroyed the system. But then I was like, that's kind of.
So as I said before, it became a master's project and kind of looking at the development of identity and where that came from, Assyrian population. So there was a lot of things that Luna talked about today or about this weekend. Cultural identity and kind of where that came from. How do we want these lessons to be formatted? So we started talking about it as the 6-pack, trying to figure out how do we want to organize these. And I argued and others argued, like, you guys already know this. You already know what is it that you want to see and how it should be formulated. What are the main things that are in a lesson? If you wanted to get a lesson from somebody, what are some of the things that you want to be able to see in it? How should it be organized? How would you kind of pull it together and kind of
We're going to use case studies from different places, including Middle Middle Eastern case studies?
Domestic and so we're gonna do local to global, like focuses
Global connection.
here in the US and then in the MENA region.
Okay.
Cool.
Next.
Informal settlements, refugee camps, what they look like, how they differ. Some of them have schools, some of them don't.
What are the social factors that lead to them forming?
Yeah, Mona talked to us about the isolation of a rural area versus the difficulties of an urban informal settlement. So we can.
Okay.
For the indecisive one. So we're taking the idea of urbanization and then trying to decide like you're trying to do we want to use informal settlements and pull that in as like a case study kind of thing, or do we want to use it to help kids work through poverty? And it seems like since Greg brought poverty to us, we are gonna kind of take poverty in urbanization, in combined urbanization and neoliberal city, and is that leading to more poverty? And
Another way to frame that would be looking at the tensions between the development, which is what we were looking at with we're looking at Dubai, the Burj Khalifa versus the labor camp. So what are the tensions between these decisions these cities are making to build themselves up versus the reality for the individuals in the city? That might be another way to get at, I think, several of the things you're looking at.
that's kind of where we're struggling.
We almost jumped ship for water.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
Okay, then we have a group over here.
Yes, we're maps.
2 groups.
Yes, and map making, potentially 2 groups. So we're trying to still put an umbrella over all of it, but we want to know what maps teach us, both as representations of map makers and also the arbitrary nature of how maps tell us certain things about history, about culture, about the areas in which they're produced, but they also can be a little confusing. They can be interpreted in lots of different ways. So what can maps tell us, but also what do we have to know about the underlying message of how maps are constructed, both in terms of culture and in terms of all of the things that are poured into a map. But there's more to it than that, so you guys jump in.
Well, can I challenge you that, and I'm going to say that Emily and Lindsay, you two might fit together really well because you're both talking about telling stories. And so you might fit, because we're trying to get it no more than 3 people to a group. So I don't know if the other 3 of you have enough in common that you could work together. But I'm going to challenge you to come up with 2 topics and split yourself into 2 groups.
I would challenge you.
Last group.
Yeah, I guess we're thinking about doing it would be like a lesson that would be maybe at the beginning of a unit on the Middle East. So it would just be about how to undo students' stereotypes about the Middle East. So things like, what do they imagine when they think of the region or of the people? And then maybe using some of the mapping stuff like Google Earth to kind of look at images from the Middle East of both refugee camps and also just cities in the Middle East. And I think our essential question will be, how do these stereotypes and perceptions have material consequences or have real world consequences?
Brielle Carlson. I am a 9th grade geography and social studies teacher in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. This first weekend at QFI has been incredible. Meeting with all the different teachers and getting resource ideas to take back to our classrooms about issues related to the Middle East and North Africa region is wonderful. We're just about to develop lesson plans in regards to the Middle East as well, which will be really incredible to have those ready-made resources. So it's been fantastic, and I'm so excited to continue all these weekends. I'm walking away with so many ideas. My brain is the best kind of exhausted that one could be after this weekend. So I cannot wait to implement these things in my classroom.
So I'm Elizabeth Gonzalez. I teach AP World History at Louisville High School in Louisville, Texas. And what I took away from this session with QFI, based on geography of the Middle East, is that it is even more diverse than I understood. So I love that while a lot of my knowledge was affirmed, that I'm teaching it in the right way, I was also super challenged to think about it in a different way. And I think that my hobby is learning, and so that's my favorite thing, to come here and then recognize that I don't know a lot about the Lebanese population, even though I understand it conceptually. I don't know anything about the Lebanese population, so I want to challenge myself to learn more. I also don't know a whole lot about neoliberalism, even though my teachers in my own building teach about it. And so I want to challenge myself to stop giving myself an out and just saying, I don't teach geography, so that's not what I'm going to do. When I recognize like how important it is to building the context for students and debunking stereotypes for students.